Hi, friends and family. So this is episode one, day one of our Great Western Adventure. I'm doing this as a vlog because it's really kind of hard to do this as you go. So I'm doing this as back at the, the home headquarters here. So the plan for the first day was a positioning day. In other words, we're trying to get as far to the east to where we're the start of the Oregon Trail. So we were trying to drive as much as we could to get there to start the real trip the next day. So I knew going in that this was going to be a very long day for us. So I already had planned that we're going to get up early and travel, which is what we did. 30. We were on the road by about 6:30, and we spent about 2 hours, 3 hours of interstate traveling, um, just just in Colorado to start out with. By that point, we did pull off the interstate at our junction with US 6, which was going to be the road we were mostly following for 2/3 of the day into Nebraska. Let me show you the Nebraska map, by the way. So we basically were trying to do from roughly here all the way over to here. And anybody familiar with the United States, Nebraska is not a small state. 10 a.m. or so, we reached Holyoke, Colorado, and that was probably the first town that we actually kind of stopped in at. Which is kind of nice, kind of small too. Um, I also um, took one of my few actual photos. There was a beautiful, for you rail fans out there, there was a beautiful baby blue Rock Island boxcar sitting on the edge of town. And I think what it's at, but I don't think that's the original paint. I think the town has actually repainted it. But it was really worth seeing that as a fallen flag of a railroad that's not been in existence for about 40, 50 years now. The landscape was kind of green to brown, um, mostly flat. Um, this area does get a fair amount of rain, so a lot of corn, and some soybeans and other stuff too. And from this point, from the where we left Sterling, we just pretty much drove due east and a little bit south. Champion, excuse me, our first major landmark, and which is Champion Mills, and it's in the just barely into Nebraska. Is about there, just barely inside the state line. I had the misfortune I didn't see the little county road that we were supposed to turn it off on, so we almost all the way into Imperial, another 8 miles, before I realized that, oops, I missed my turnoff. So we had to backtrack and then come down, and then we ended up in Champion Mills. Champion Mills is a Nebraska historical landmark, one of the first um, milling operations in Nebraska. I don't have the date exactly, but it's definitely early 1800. I want to say 1840s, but I might be wrong. And it's definitely off the beaten track. I mean, it's definitely, it's 10 miles in and 10 miles out from US 6. But it's a nice, beautiful place. But to kind of give you a description is that they've rebuilt the buildings as they were in like the 1850s and 60s uh, with exhibits inside. Now, because it's 2020, everything's locked down, closed, so we weren't actually able to go inside. But it was really kind of nice if you're in the middle, inside the windows, you could see some of the displays. Also, beautiful grass everywhere. It's a nice sunny day, and they have a small lake there too, and a campground, and that I will definitely do. We passed by the reservoir, and then we passed the Wineta and Palisades. And every time we hit one of these small towns, we pull off the highway and just kind of circling around the town. We didn't really spend too much time with these. We just kind of took a look. Nice, small western places. That took about 2 hours to drive down through there, and then we cut due south on a smaller county road, and that took us down to Swanson Reservoir. And by this time, I'm guessing it must have been about 2 o'clock. This is where we had lunch. There's also a bunch of camping here too. And again, this will be another video later in the week. The one nice thing is that I had bought a Nebraska um, pass, so that let me go into all these parks and recreation areas without having to pay the day use fee. Um, they're higher for the out of state, but if you're spending any bit of time in Nebraska, I definitely think it's worth picking up. I think we paid like $45 in 2020. After lunch and a quick shower, we continued on our way, and about half an hour up from there, headed northeast on the state highway, we came to Massacre Rocks. Interesting as a point of interest is that there was a huge Indian battle. But here's the interesting thing: it was not between the white settlers and the Native Americans. It was between two separate tribes of Native Americans. And there's some information boards here and such, and some picnic grounds, and I believe there was water available here too. A few minutes later, and kind of down the hill, we rejoined US 6. McCook's a pretty good size, almost a small city, and kind of the standard stuff. We kind of looked around a little bit about downtown, but we needed to continue on, so we didn't hang around here too long. And then we went through a number of small towns. But before we got to Oxford, we turned south onto US 136, and we came through Edison and then Oxford. And Oxford really was kind of neat because we found a one-room schoolhouse, supposedly the smallest one-room schoolhouse in Nebraska. This thing was tiny. It was only about 10 feet by 10 feet square, which is about, in metric, is about 2 meters square. And we got a picture of that. And then I would say also I would also say from Swanson Reservoir onward for the next 200 miles or so, we placed small places of Orleans and kind of hooked around and ended up in Alma, Nebraska. And this was actually a pretty major stop for us. Alma was kind of interesting. It's not necessarily the place I would be camping at, but I can't believe the gas price. It was $1.98 a gallon. I mean, we've been averaging about 250, 260. So it's really a lot cheaper here. We also we parked in the city park, and As usual, oftentimes the bathrooms are locked because of the lockdown again because of 2020. But well, it's kind of there were several neat things right here. But um, it was late Sunday afternoon, and in the park there was about 100 to 150 people attending an outdoor church service with the preacher going full blast. The other thing about Alma is this was apparently the site of a military academy for high school students at one point, which closed, I think, in like the 1970s. But in the city park, they have a really nice, just in one little area, they have this really nice collection of military vehicles, including a tank. I believe that's a Sherman, but don't hold me to that either. 20, 30 minutes of taking pictures and kind of, catching the Subaru up again and just gone. So for the rest of the day, we're pretty much following U.S. Highway 136, just literally along the southern border of Nebraska. I'll show you that here. So we came in here, and then we came down here, and you can kind of see this big black line. That's what we kind of follow all the way about to about here or so. That's US 136, and 6 comes in kind of comes in like that. There's a huge reservoir here called the Harlan County Reservoir that's just outside Alma. It's about 20, 30 miles long, and a lot of campgrounds along that. I'd looked into it a little bit. The different campgrounds are run by different agencies. The lake itself is again one of those weird sort of things. Is actually run and maintained by the U.S. Corps of Engineers. There also, I believe, there's also a state recreation area here also. We got all the way east to the little town of Guide Rock, and this is where we kind of, I have to say, I made a mistake. I should have stayed on the state highway, excuse me, the U.S. highway, and then came down another U.S. highway. But no, I decided to take the back road because it looked it was significantly shorter, but a lot of dirt road and a lot of you know over, over, under, right, left, yeah. Also, the reason I was kind of trying to find a landmark here, which was for the California Trail, called Guide Rock, which is actually what the town is named for. But by the time we actually got there, it was really too dark to see it. However, what was there was hundreds and hundreds of deer, and boy, that was a little bit scary. Actually, really the scary point was when actually one jumped out and we actually hit a deer. And that's something I haven't done in 30 years of driving. I actually never, and luckily hit it a glancing bull. I'm not saying the deer got off well, trust me, but we were lucky. It only put a dent in the car, which I didn't even find out about till the next morning. That was how small it was. About that big, uh, about that deep. Well, I mean, as far as that, and about, or I should say, wide, and about that deep. So it wasn't a big deal. Didn't affect the handling of the car. I have to say, by this time we were really tired, short tempered, frustrated because um, it was late. It was already 6 or 7. Oh, by the way, I had forgotten that east of Split Rock, we were on Central Time, so we lost. Well, finally, about I don't know, about 7:38, we finally pulled into Superior, Nebraska, and this is, I will say, a huge town, but it's got a business district and such. I know, so yay! I mean, so we've just finally decided. that this was where we were going to get food, and we, and I was like, I mean, I really was feeling bad for my partner because I promised her a really good meal, and at this point, there really wasn't that much. So, so it was the convenience, the gas station with the convenience store. So we pulled in, and it was like, oh no, sandwiches. But we got lucky. Part of this convenience store was actually a pizza shop. So we were able to get pizzas. And my wife got this huge pizza turnover, which we didn't realize for $5, which was just like about this big. And usually my wife eats something about. We could have stayed in Superior. There is an RV park here, which isn't bad compared to our RVs. So I had heard so much about Chester, so I really decided to push on to Chester. Yeah, as far as 2020 goes, the RV park in Superior charges uh, $15 for a site, but there's really not really that many rooms for car camping. I'll describe our camping setup and such, and I can actually show you it in that video. Luckily, Chester was only about, I don't know, about 20, 30 minutes down the road. That's also the reason why we decided not to stay in Superior. Chester was pretty darn close at this point.